Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is week 4 of the 13-week fiscal program for American Descendants of Slavery. We have myself, Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator, Chief Quietwater, Chief Akebulan, and Chief Blackcoat. And here, we focus more so on the first letter in the acronym ADOS, which is American. And I will start off today by reading the 12 steps for American Descendants of Slavery. I'll pull it up so you all can see it here. Bring this up a little bit, okay. All right, so step 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Step 2, who established that estate. Step 3, what nation and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Step 4, or ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations? Roll this up a little bit again. They either support it or they don't. No support equals no money. However, if they support it, then immediately children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3, and field trips to ADOS landmarks in that city, county, and state. Step 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Step 7, avoid spending money with any small businesses that doesn't hire your people. Example, gas stations, nail salons, subways, etc. Step 8, all businesses need operating cash, spend money with American businesses. Step 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Step 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the gold standard act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American descendants of slavery no longer have faith in the US government. This is why the financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Step 11, teach your kids or teach your children 1 hour a day about their history on this land. A, have them learn about an American inventor. B, have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. And D, they should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion, militarily and culturally. Step 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the United States government. Every estate American descendants of slavery live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter, will bring us together for our common cause. Next, we'll have Chief Alligator read the American Inventor for this week.
Okay, am I clear? Okay.
Good to go.
So we got Granville T Woods again, born as a free American, also known as the Black Edison. He was born April 23rd, 1856, Columbus, Ohio. He died January 30th, 1910, New York, New York. We're going to do the overhead conducting system for electric railway. So think about San Francisco's train system. I even think they got one now in downtown Atlanta off Auburn Ave, where you have the conductor wire overhead. Y'all ever seen a train system like that within any metro area? Some trains go on railroad tracks, some of them, it's overhead.
Like a trolley or something? Similar to like one of those trolleys or something?
Right, so he also invented that type of railway system as well, the overhead conducting system. The date for that invention was May 29th, 1888. And the federal patent number is 383844. And his family or us as a group do not receive any percentage of income from that invention, which in turn out of that invention came a whole industry or manufacturer sector. So we don't own and control any of that.
All right, thank you, Chief Alligator. Next, we'll have Chief Blackcoat with the quote for this week.
Yes, sir. All right, we got a good one today from Dr. Carter G. Woodson. All right, tonight I'm reading quote 11. Our advanced teachers, like most highly educated Negroes, pay little attention to the things about them except when the shoe begins to pinch on one of the other side. Unless they happen to become naked, they never think of the production of cotton or wool. Unless they get hungry, they never give any thought to the output of what. My bad, I'm gonna back up. They get hungry. They never give any thought to the quote or to the output of the wheat of corn. Unless their friends lose their jobs, they never inquire about the outlook for coal or steel, or how the things affect the children who they are teaching or they are trying to teach. In other words, they can live in a world, but they are not of it. How can such persons guide the youth without knowing how these things affect the Negro community?
Great quote for this week. Last but not least, we'll have Chief Quietwater read the maroon historical points and legal definitions.
All right, I'll start off with legal definitions. Number one, American, a native of America. Number two, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number three, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number four, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number five, school, an institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. And number six, education and enlightening experience. And for the maroon historical points, number one was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number two, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number three, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number four, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. And number five, maroons knew their European language, defenses, and plans.
Thank you, Chief Quietwater. Next, we'll go and read Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. Make sure I'll bring that up so you all can see this here. Let's go right here. All right. Make this a little bit bigger for you all. All right, so Section 10, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender and payment of debts. Definitely want to highlight here, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. This word here is going to be key in regards to what we're going to be breaking down today. So just want to keep that in mind, that in Section 10 of Article 1 in the Constitution, they're clearly stating that no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. So with that in the back of your mind, let's move on to.
Hold on one second, Chief Biko.
Go ahead.
Right there on that top sentence, just what you said, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation.
Correct.
Basically, the United States government saying as they conquer North America, they're not going to do business with the American form of government. There will be no alliance, and no state can enter into any confederation. So we have to understand confederation is American form of government. So the same people that helped them set up their constitution, the Iroquois Confederacy, they turned right back around in Section 10 of their constitution for their government and basically said, we playing for keeps. We're going to set up our own government, and we have no intention of doing business with a confederation.
Correct. Great point out there. Great point out there. Next, we'll go to Article 6 here in the Constitution. Second paragraph, blow this up here, make it a little bigger. All right. The Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So again, the treaty is what the US government holds as the supreme law of the land. Pretty much throughout the whole year, we've been reading treaties, whether it's the Treaty of Payne's Landing, Treaty of Moultrie Creek. So all of these treaties, according to the United States government, are the supreme law of the land. Now, we know that in these treaties, the United States government didn't have any representative to actually sign off on these treaties. So all of these quote unquote treaties that we read, as far as ones that weren't or didn't have a representative from the United States actually sign off, those will be void or invalid, especially according to what this is saying within the Constitution. So again, just something to keep in your mind as we're going through this lecture today, or pretty much providing this proof of claim, this evidence. And last but not least, we always got to go to the militia. Let's see here. All right, so Article 2, Section 2. The president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states when called into the actual service of the United States. So again, the president is the commander-in-chief, not only the Army, the Navy, but also the militia. Again, in our prior videos, we showed that Georgia is set up with militia districts. So at any point, the president can contact any of those militia districts and they'd be on call. They'll be on go for them. Because again, the president is the commander-in-chief of the Army, Navy, as well as the militia. We also know that Georgia was populated by England from Europe's or England's debtor prisons, AKA slaves. Anytime you owe anybody, you are a slave to them. So again, let's keep that in mind as we read through what we're going to be discussing today. So I'll just go ahead and back up out of there. And what I want to do to pretty much set the stage is ask a few questions tonight. But first and foremost, I want to ask 3 questions just right off the bat. And definitely I'm going to need engagement, not only from, the people on this video, but also in the comments, because these are questions that, we have answers to, but also that our people don't seem to have answers to as well. So based off of what we've been reading, within this past year, how many nations were in North America, let's say by 1861? How many nations? So I'll bring up a little picture here just to kind of help with that answer. See if I can bring up my screen again and show this. So we all remember this particular photo showing, again, 5 nations being moved west of the Mississippi. So understanding this, we already know off the bat, okay, there's at least 5 nations. These 5 are the Cherokee, Creek, Chickasaw, Seminole, Choctaw. All went west of the Mississippi into Indian Territory, present day Oklahoma. We also know that there is another nation in the United States government, so that makes 6. So we have these 5, United States government. We also have, if we're talking about North America, we have Mexico. And we also have what is Britain, which would be Canada. At that time, it was still controlled by Great Britain, and it hadn't yet become Canada. So right off the bat, we have, what was that, eight. So knowing that, how many would you all say that we actually have in North America by this year, 1861?
I would say 6 nations.
Okay. Six.
What would be the Chief Black Coat? What would be your 6?
Right here that we got labeled Cherokee, Creek, Chickasaw, Seminole, and Choctaw, and like Chief Biko had also said, the United States, that entity, that nation is in itself.
Okay, I'm missing a couple.
By 1861, I would say probably all 8 because, well, maybe that's a good question. Maybe 7 because I do know that there were good question. Not sure. By 1861, I would just say the 5 then. No, the 6 plus the United States, like you said. But I'm thinking that within Canada, weren't there's already a nation developed by that time as well?
Most likely, yeah, for sure.
So in Canada, they were still underneath pretty much what they would call the province or territory.
Got you.
So not
Okay.
necessarily nations, but with a territory, they're still being controlled by a nation.
Okay.
The nation is
So
controlled by would be Britain, as far as
I would say
Canada.
6 too then.
Okay. Chief
I agree.
Akebulan, you agree?
6. Yeah.
Got you. And Chief Alligator.
Okay. There's no right or wrong. Everybody's giving their opinion. So as you mentioned, you got the 5 that's in Oklahoma, right?
Mhm.
You also have the 5 that did not go into Oklahoma, those same nations.
Same one, right?
So that's 10 right there.
I see what you did there.
Right. That's not
All right.
good. Okay. So that's 10. You got Mexico, 11. Okay. Mexico is a nation.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you got the United States government. That's 12. And then you got Canada. So you got 13 nations going into the Civil Rebellion. The 5 that did not go into Oklahoma, that's who we descend from. And we're about to be denationalized.
When you separated the 2 nations, even though they were part of the same nation, but one went left in Mississippi, or one across the Mississippi, and the other one stayed down in the South. Are you saying pretty much everybody that went left the Mississippi gave over their everything, meaning culture, language, all of that good stuff to go in, or did they keep it? So who? Well, we both came out of those nations, so you can't take anything away from that. That's just natural birthright right there. So never mind, irrelevant question. You probably saw where I was going, but
I see what you're doing, but I think that they are the same thing. They just, like, since one broke off, they just became something different, especially since they got forced with different tribes and stuff.
So did we become different? That's part of my question.
Not the ones that stayed. I feel like the ones that stayed, I feel like the ones that stayed had they stayed who they were, and that's why they stayed. I think that was their main thing. But the ones who left, they probably eventually became more open to different cultures because they were around other tribes and tribes, because if they all went to what was called an Indian territory, it's not just the Cherokees, it's not just the Choctaws, it's all 5 of them in one place.
Right.
It's like being in a diverse area, like how they say, like if a black kid talks white or a white kid acts black. I feel like they lost a part of themselves, but the ones who stayed pretty much kept their roots.
And the reason why Chief Alligator stated that there's still 5 east of the Mississippi is because what we know after the American Removal Act, we still had a second Seminole War, a third Seminole War, and also no treaty.
Right.
So we know that they had to be wars. Again, what we're painting the picture of is that nations war against nations.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So knowing that and understanding what we just read in this quote unquote Civil War, their own president stating that that was a rebellion, wasn't a nation.
Right.
They didn't recognize them as a Confederate,
Correct.
which they weren't.
Exactly. Because who was the Confederates? The Confederacy was us.
Right.
Go ahead, Chief Alligator.
No, I was just raising my hand when you said who was the Confederates. I was just saying that was us.
Correct.
And we just have to remember one more thing. I don't think we brought it up last week. When you see these rednecks in front of these courthouses on these horses, and they're talking about General Sherman and these different people,
All right.
we have to understand that that's part of their lie, because these people did not have it. They could not be us. They couldn't be a Confederacy, which is what Andrew Johnson showed. But also when you see the old military equipment that is in the South, that's ours. We really have to understand that we was in a Seminole War. Why do you think that we didn't have weaponry, but we can invent all these different industries? So this is where 180 of the mind has to take place. Now that you know for 100% fact there was no Civil War, now you have to look at all those weapons that are in the South, and you have to understand that's your weaponry. You were the Confederates. They just handpicked some Europeans and made it seem like they're the leaders. So even those people that's on that mountain, you weren't Confederates. You were just rogue peasants bucking against your own government. That's all that was.
Correct, correct. That was the European slave rebelling against the European master. That's exactly what that quote unquote Civil War was. And we're going to break it down today. So the next question, since we know, okay, we've established 13 nations within this place known as North America. So were we a part of the first 12 amendments of the United States Constitution? Knowing what we just established, we were our own nation, separate from the United States. Were we a part of the first 12 amendments of the first 12 amendments of the U.S. Constitution?
No, we were never included at all by the way that it was written. So the answer to that would be no.
Correct.
Definitely agree. Knowing that the United States government is recognizing its citizens now coming out of that entity, they definitely weren't recognizing anybody still a part of the Confederacy.
I was about to say, I don't think they wanted that to have anything to do with us.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Chief Alligator saying?
Yeah, I agree as well. The first 12 amendments had nothing to do with us. Those were specifically for Europeans that came across the Atlantic into Ellis Island through New York.
It's like giving people, it's like you going to a new class or a new school, and new school got new rules, so you just got to tell them to. That's how I feel it's like for them.
Correct.
Wait a minute, say that again. So you're saying when they left Europe, that's like leaving one school, coming to the new world, which was a new school.
Yeah, and just having a different set of rules. Not the Constitution is their set of rules for themselves. It's not. That's why we weren't included. And I feel like the what are those things called? The amendments that were for the people.
We the people.
Yeah, for the we the people, like the 13th, 14th, and 15th. I feel like that was just a way to just make people feel included.
It was definitely a mind game.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely
Because out
feel
of
that.
12 or however many there is, why are we only getting 3 out of? Why did you have to say that separately from what? Why was that already not in the first place? That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I want you to keep that question with you there too, Chief, to keep around as we continue to build tonight, because it's definitely gonna get answered within this video here. And just to kind of, I guess, piggyback off of what we just stated, if we know we weren't a part of the first 12, then that begs another question. We do this every week. We name an American inventor. Okay, so is there an American inventor with a federal patent number prior to 1865?
Yes.
There is. Okay.
Well, oh wait,
He said
prior.
Federal.
Let me repeat. Is there an American inventor with a federal patent number prior to 1865.
1865.
I wouldn't know that.
Chief
I would
Quietwater,
say,
Probably not.
can
I
you
would
pull
say
the
no.
inventors list up, Chief Quietwater?
Say what?
Can you pull the inventors list up?
Yes, I can.
Because now it sounds like now these inventions are being patented by this government. So before or after, on just the inventions alone, probably not.
Correct. No, you're on the right track there, Chief Black Coat. So us knowing that we weren't a part of this government prior or within those first 12 amendments,
Mhm.
they're saying that these 13 through 15 amendments apply to us, yet there's no patents or federal patent numbers prior to 1865. So that in itself shows that we were already inventing stuff. A slave can't invent nothing. You see what I'm saying? A slave isn't going to be creating everything that Granville T Woods has created and others like him.
In the 1800s.
Correct. So that in itself shows that, hey, we weren't a part of this government. And B, how is a slave creating all these industries, but they a slave?
All right.
That don't make sense. You're telling me these people who don't know nothing about nothing, savages, come over here and creating all of these mechanisms and structures and all of this magic, basically, because they had never seen that before. All the slaves, okay. And there's something ain't clicking.
So I did pull it up, and I mean, just scanning through, no. There was no federal patent numbers prior to that.
All right.
So right there again.
So what we have to understand then is that that was the world that they realized that we had as they were military occupying us. They were encountering towns and cities that had washing machines, railroad systems. You see what I'm saying? They couldn't take credit for it until they military occupied the native. You see, then they register it through their government, but we were already doing it.
Right.
As those notes said in the Library of Congress, Europeans were waiting to leave to come to the New World for the machinery. And the
machinery.
They didn't have to.
That was already established.
We already had it.
Right.
We definitely were being laxy-daisy with our inventions, had them out in the open, but it was normal for us. So we didn't overthink it like that.
I was about to say that was normal. We wasn't being laxy-daisy. People just wasn't supposed to be stealing like they were stealing.
Right. You know, when I said laxy-daisy with the inventions, meaning like they were just out in the open. Like we were just like, this is how we live.
Yeah, this regular.
Yeah, because it was our stuff on our land.
There was a trust system too.
Right. Yeah.
But great bring up by Chief Biko on you know, being a slave and also being a creator or an inventor. And I know today a lot of debates going on the internet, Facebook, wherever, Twitter. It's about freedmen, slaves, ADOS. Everybody's, you know, lumping themselves into groups nowadays, but everybody still recognizes themselves as a slave. So that's going to be the biggest issue when it comes to our recovery as a group. Is we gotta understand. You can't create and invent, and then all of a sudden you're just nothing. You can't think for yourself. Can't write anything up.
Can't read or write.
Can't read or write. You know, everything's hard to grasp. I need help. Help me
I don't
out.
think that we were slaves. I think we were just enslaved.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. That's the only way you can become a slave or be enslaved. You know, there is no slaves.
Like I said, we
couldn't
read and all that. There was no way for us to make this stuff unless we know magic.
Come on now.
And as y'all stated there, this in itself is showing the mindset of that European slave right here, this memoir. Again, everybody is to be well dressed, well housed, comfortable. America is raging.
I will also, this is an assumption, this is definitely like a conspiracy theory, but your boule, the boule has always been around since the European, pretty well, not always been around, but it will definitely form
What's
after
the
this
boule?
government. Pretty much your bougie Negroes.
Correct, correct.
So were these Negroes, to be boule, pretty much handing over power, saying, you know what, we're defeated, can't fight anymore. Pretty much, we'll give you the game and let you run this world, this new world, and we'll just sit in the curtains and keep our people that we know best under control. Give them the thoughts that, because you got to think W.E. Du Bois. What's another one? His rivalry, Washington.
Mhm.
These people were thinkers. These are, but they highlight these people because, they give them the game. They say, you know what, we'll just show you what we were doing over here prior to whatever.
I like that thought too. I like that thought of where you're going with that. We're gonna stick with that too, because we're definitely gonna keep bringing those particular instances up. But again, prior to that, they were trying to fight against the fate of the white slave. So if we been saying, they were the slaves. They were the people getting sent from their debtor prisons over into this new land, specifically into our Creek Confederacy. We know that just based off of factual history. We actually have a map that I want to share here.
Hold on. Can you go back and read the next two sentences on that real quick?
Right here.
It will nationally expel a Russian genius like Gorky. It makes great difficulty of admitting to its shores anyone who has ever been in prison. So what they're telling you is, we were fighting against them sending their trash over here.
Mhm.
We want their low lives. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
This is what these
Correct.
is writing.
And who are they speaking on? It would nationally expel a Russian genius like Gorky. Who are they comparing him to?
So Gorky in Russia,
Right.
and he's supposed to be bigging up the European in Europe about how sophisticated they are. So he's saying America's going to dispel his notion, because when we get over there, they got railway systems, electricity.
Exactly. And that's what I wanted to point out. The comparison, that's irrelevant now.
Great
You see what these Negroes doing?
The internet, Chief Black Coat, about ADOS and all these different people. Everybody on this channel, whether you mentally realize it or not, you're all leaders. That's why we all have the title chief. You can't be a leader without being a reader.
Correct.
So what you're saying is the internet age, they're not reading. That's why they're claiming acronyms, ADOS, B1. Nobody's reading anything. So you still think you're a slave.
And you answer my question. Yeah.
Yeah, a leader doesn't just go off what people say. A leader is going to investigate and make an informed decision.
And it's not that we're not reading, because I do feel a lot of us are trying to figure it out. It's what they are reading. You're still reading McGill or McGriff, whatever that, these college books. And it's cool to have that type of education. But that's why we use Carter G. Woodson quotes, because he always points out, you can't learn from your master's degree didn't teach you what we're talking about here. So that's why you'll probably be confused, like, what? Slaves, inventors.
It's not education, call it what it is.
Brainwashing.
Chief Quietwater gave the legal definition of schooling. It's learning in a disciplined manner. So they military brainwashed us. You're not educated. You can get that master's degree in history all day long. You still think it was a civil war.
Exactly.
Correct. Great call outs there. I did want to highlight this map here. I'll back out again, and it says what? Colonists and immigrants route to Texas. So they're even, again, documenting the ports in which they were landing in, Brunswick, Jacksonville, Savannah, to populate these areas, which is the Creek Confederacy, with their peasants, their slaves. They're European peasants and slaves. Let me correct myself. They're European peasants and slaves. Again, all of these ports, and we know this is where they set up shop after removing our people from this area or these areas. We were still here. We were still here, but they had to make sure that they had these controls so they can get their peasants and everything in here to work, to labor.
Import. Yeah.
Correct, correct.
Keep that map right there because it shows they were coming in by the boatload.
Mhm.
We've already showed proof of claim at the Savannah port that only 436 melanated people came in at one time.
Mhm.
You know, it was more than that on one boat out of the images out of the Library of Congress.
Correct.
We also know 16 million per their census by 1850 was over here.
Mhm.
So the big lie that media and school programs the American to believe is that we came over here by the millions. When actuality, you came over here by the millions.
Correct.
They just
Right.
reconstructed the story. Reconstruct.
Mhm.
They lied.
Is it it was something when they reconstruct a crime scene, they're picking parts. Some of these parts may be true, but they're telling a different story. They're
Correct.
changing the narrative. So when you reconstruct the crime scene, just think of that. Okay, they're picking apart pieces to tell their story. Reconstruction, they're doing the same thing with reconstruction.
Like in that Breonna Taylor case,
Correct.
they reinvented a
Correct.
crime scene that they had never even had in the first place. So they made it up, basically, made up the narrative in which they wanted everyone to follow.
Great call out there, Chief Quietwater. That's exactly what they did. They stated that. Because they
Yeah.
had to wait 3 months after to do that.
Right.
So with that, I do want to jump ahead into these amendments. That way we can make sure we get through them tonight. So the first one, again, is the 13th Amendment. This is the one that you see all the Netflix shows about. They're gonna be putting it in your face come next month for quote unquote Black History.
Black History Month.
So we definitely want to make sure that we're understanding this 13th through 15th Amendment here. Let me share my screen and we can highlight. Zoom in a little bit. All right. So anybody want to read the 13th Amendment, section 1 here?
I'll do it.
Okay. Go ahead, Chief Alligator.
Where we at? Okay. No, that's not it.
Go down a little bit.
TBX, 3 Roman numerals.
Right. It should
Yeah, right here, right
be.
here. Do you see it?
Here we go. There it is. All right. 13th Amendment, passed by Congress January 31st, 1865, ratified December 6, 1865. Note, a portion of Article 5. No. 4, right. A portion of Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution was changed by the 13th Amendment. All right, Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. What I'm taking from this, understanding there was no Civil War, that there was a civil rebellion from the peasants in the South against the we the people and the government in the North, the United States government. After that rebellion, after the amnesty document that Chief Biko and Chief Quietwater read, they then came to terms with their peasants in the South and said, okay, we're not going to enslave you anymore, sending you from Europe over here, and we're not going to make you do involuntary servitude unless we convict you of a crime. Okay?
Correct.
That's the way I interpret this. Y'all can build on it and give y'all opinion, but knowing that there was no Civil War, we can just, in my mind, I'm Xing out the fact that there was any war fought to free quote unquote Americans. No, this was poor peasants fighting against their own government because they were tired of coming over here under that indentured status. And I'm gonna keep it even more real based on documents we read in the Seminole War. We were washing those peasants as they were trying to fight us.
Correct.
At some point, those Europeans were like, look, I'm tired of, the word hit the street. Man, they finna send your ass over there fresh out. They're finna empty out these jails and they finna send your ass over there to the new world, and you got to go fuck with them people down there in the South, killing us. And at some point, those peasants rebelled against their own government. That's how I interpret this, based on the facts that y'all read, which y'all get.
Correct. I do want to just preference the amendment with what you just read as far as the portion of Article 4, Section 2. I do just want to give some context to that. Basically, what that portion was saying that is a person held to service or labor for someone, again, a slave, whether a slave or involuntary servitude, you had to be sent back to that claimant, or you had to be sent back to that person that you owed that debt to whom and pretty much labor, or pretty much whoever that labor was due to. So if they caught you,
right,
you was getting your ass sent back to.
So that's why they fought so hard, because they like, I ain't going back there.
I ain't going back there.
We're gonna have to figure out a master plan.
And this was the master plan. They said, okay, we won't send you back to the person you owe it to, your labor to. But if you get convicted, oh, you still gonna be working for us.
Right.
Now they can lie and say he did this, she did that, and
correct,
broke the law back on the plantation.
Correct.
Whatever that looks like.
Anybody else want to build on that section 1?
No, I think it came straight up the middle, you know.
I was going to say, I think I covered everything.
Yeah.
Perfect. I do want to just highlight here where they have here party. I did look up the legal definition. The legal definition was a person concerned or having or taking part in any, in any affair, matter, transaction, or proceeding. Again, a person. I think before we jump into the 14th, we got another question we should pose. What is the legal definition of person? So again, a party is a person concerned or having or taking part in an affair, matter, transaction, or proceeding. Then what is the legal definition of a person?
Can somebody look that up while I do the second section under Amendment 13, the legal definition of person?
Yeah.
And I'll do section 2 on the 13th Amendment. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. And so Congress makes the laws under their government. So you can see in section 2, they're throwing it back to Congress saying, yeah, any amendments to their lawful constitution document, it has to be done through Congress, which that's the way that they're set up. I can do 14 too if you want.
Go ahead.
Amendment 14 passed by Congress June 13th, 1866, ratified July 9th, 1868. Note, Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution was modified by Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. So you can pull that up, Chief Biko, while I work Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. And so if you can highlight after that comma, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. This is the problem that we have today. You have United States citizens, i.e. immigrants, claiming to be American. If you're not American, you are a U.S. citizen. And Chief Blackcoat and I had an interesting dialogue with somebody from India that owned and operated a gas station a couple of months ago. And this was the same thing that I was educating him on. He was trying to say that he was American. And I said, no, you're a U.S. citizen. And so going back to what Chief Blackcoat said about the internet, Twitter, and all this different stuff, we're not reading the right stuff because our language is not correct. None of these immigrants are Americans. They're U.S. citizens.
And I just want to kind of piggyback off of that. They like to use U.S. citizen and American interchangeably when it's not. American, U.S. citizen, two different things.
Right.
You
What was
all
that?
go ahead.
My bad. Go ahead, Chief.
No, go
My
ahead. Go
bad.
ahead. I think
No, I
you
was-
were going to what I was about to say.
Yeah, no, I was something happened later on this week or early this week, last week with McConnell or whatever this European name is, very popular European. He said something about how Americans
Oh,
or African Americans were voting just as high as Americans.
right.
So I'm listening to it, you know, us
Like
being who
it's
we
two
are.
separate entities.
Well, it
I
sounded like he
guess.
was speaking about the European being the American, saying they're
Right.
voting just as high as we are voting. So he
Mhm.
completely just like put himself in the American shoe and now being
Right.
the American and now pointing at everybody else like African Americans are voting just as high as Americans. So when I heard it, it threw me off and I'm like,
What?
are you talking about the same group of people?
Right.
Or are you talking about you, the citizen on American soil
Correct.
in the African American or whatever that is?
Mhm.
So it's the mind games they play, the word games, you know,
Yes.
swindling people deeper off that edge. Now they're coming out just straight up calling. Well, I mean, they always have, but now you're saying they're comparing to, you know, separating the two, making sure people, you know, using that word play. Never seen it before.
Yeah. And like you stated, we're more aware of what the difference is. And what you pretty much just painted the picture of was their legal definition of a person.
Mm.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go ahead and just read that. The legal definition of a person is an individual, a labor organization, partnerships, associations, corporations. I added an artificial person, a legal representative, trustee, or trustee in bankruptcy. So while we're reading these amendments and we're using, because again, this is a legal document, a lawful document. So they're speaking in legalese, so we have to read the legal definition of these words. So all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. So understanding that, we're saying, okay, all persons. So a person again can be an individual, a corporation, an association, hell, even an artificial person,
Wow.
which is an imaginary being. That's where you get your straw man or corporate fiction from. So us understanding this is like, okay, then why the hell do we think this should apply to us?
Right.
Because we don't read it.
Yeah.
Because we don't read it. Now, if I can just, before I finish working this, which you just said, Chief Biko, understand the structure. The United States government is the parent company. All of those different definitions you just gave, organizations, trustees, persons, artificial, those are DBPs under the government. So basically what they're making you a franchisee. They're making you a franchise. Under the United States government, if you're born or naturalized, which is a procedure to be naturalized, that's a procedure. If you're born in the jurisdiction of the United States, or you go through the naturalization process, you're going to be recognized as a citizen of the United States government, which means that now you've been franchised.
Franchise. I like the way you're saying that.
Which now they can tax the entity.
Correct.
Right.
You understand? Now they have something to generate revenue off of so that their government can operate. So now we're talking structure. All right, I'm gonna go to the next sentence. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Going back to that word citizen, that's what you are. You come over here legally through Ellis Island, get your documents, get your green card, do that little waiting period, learn the Pledge of Allegiance and what else they got y'all doing. You're a U.S. citizen. Whether you come from Nigeria, Haiti, that's best you are a U.S. citizen. So even these immigrants are playing on our intelligence, the American, because they're trying to claim America, and all you got to do is cite to the proper lawful document and be like, bro, who you fooling? You a citizen. You see how they running game on us? Because they know we don't know this.
Right.
They know we don't know this.
They know that.
Huh?
Like you said, they know we don't know it.
They
And
know
that's
we
why they can, like you said, run a game on us. If you from Asia, I'm American.
Right.
The average nigga will be like, okay, yeah, well, I don't, get confused, get stumbled.
Right.
No, what?
You a U.S.
Asia.
citizen.
You're a
I'm the
citizen.
American. You a U.S. citizen.
And what makes me most mad about that, I'm gonna make that short, is you can look at the physical features. Everybody else looks exactly like where they're from. We come here and the American is walking past you every day, and it's like, oh, I don't know what that is.
Right.
That's
American.
true.
It's me. Yeah, but
Right.
school got us gone, all the way gone.
Yeah.
Correct.
Anybody else want to build on that, or y'all want me to keep pushing?
You can keep going.
We go in. We're gonna get into section 2.
I'm still at the bottom of this other section over here.
Okay.
Nor shall any state deprive any person, here we go, person, of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This pertains to corporations. Here we are in 2022. Just last week, the Supreme Court said the government cannot tell corporations whether they're going to make their employees, quote unquote, get their people vaccinated. How were they able to do that? They're claiming this 14th Amendment. If you pull the court cases, more corporations, i.e. persons, have filed claims federally under the 14th Amendment than quote unquote natural Americans like us. So this isn't specifically written for us based on what we've read. Nothing says in the 13th or the 14th Amendment thus far that this amendment applies to you specifically. Y'all following me?
Right.
So how we've been
They don't say it's for Americans. They just say all persons.
right. And a person is an LLC or S Corp or C Corp or nonprofit organization or the gay community.
Who it pertains to.
Yeah, the gay community is a what? It's an artificial group. It's an artificial group.
I just want to show something just to highlight that part there.
What's that?
Of what you just stated. And it's not being disrespectful. It is what it is. Again, what he's talking about here was this court case. I believe it's what? Obergefell versus Hodges. This was in 2015, gay marriage. They cited the 14th Amendment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's what he's talking about. Persons, and again, it says here, equal protection, equal protection of the laws. That's what they're citing. You can't deny them under the 14th Amendment.
Right.
But as a whatever.
No. I mean, you're starting to realize you got gang rant on you.
Right.
Because we're claiming amendments that we never worked them. We never read them. This shit apply to entities.
Anything.
Correct.
Entities, like you said, right.
Correct. And that's why he said artificial persons. Artificial persons, hell, we talking about anything now.
Anything, not your natural right birthright persons, but anything up under this United States government.
Correct.
Right.
It's amazing, the structure. I like how he broke that spider web down. I started seeing him get in the bag. Had to cut it short, but yeah, the structure. And Chief Biko brought that up. It's
real
structure,
or imaginary, who for the purpose of legal reasoning are treated more or has about the same as a human being. That's what the artificial person is. So.
And that's why Michael Vick can go to jail for fighting dogs, making that seem like it's just because we're living in, dogs can be
person,
person more important than a person's life. Yeah.
Yeah. If you register that dog, sure, you can give it a
Mhm.
DBA. Yeah, you can register that dog. Yeah.
Wow.
Welcome to
You see
Alice
the
in Wonderland.
game.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So you see the game that's being played now. You see the game that's being played.
so to operate under this reality and win, you have to be able to get out of your body and operate from a third person standpoint.
Make it a playground.
You understand? It's almost like if you're playing Monopoly and you move your piece around the board, you have to become that person, or you have to become that human being that is actually moving that Monopoly piece. You can't be the piece on the board.
Right.
Correct.
What did Donald Trump say, Chief Alligator? What was that quote?
What?
Own nothing, control everything.
Yes.
Yep.
And when people say how many times he went bankrupt, he never went bankrupt personally. Why? Because he was creating persons. He was creating entities. So you can bankrupt an entity all day long. It's make believe. It's not real.
And that's what bankruptcy's for. Drop it off.
You want to give me section 2?
Okay.
All right, I'll do this one if somebody can pick up the 3rd and 4th.
Gotcha.
Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers. Based on the populations in their states, that's going to tell how many delegates are actually going to go to DC and vote on matters. That's what I get from that first statement. Representatives, which will be the delegates, they're going to be apportioned among the several states according to the respective numbers of citizens in that state. Counting the whole number of persons in each state. So they're gonna round up. They're gonna use whole numbers. But not only are they going to count real life human beings, they're also going to be counting the corporations. Follow me? Because persons is a corporation. Y'all with me? They're counting all persons. So whether you're a real life human being or entity, a railroad company, whatever, yeah, we're going to count you.
Makes sense.
Counting the whole number of each persons in each state. Excluding Indians, not tax. Now here they are with taking us off of reality. Excluding Americans, not tax. Who would be the Americans not tax? The people in Oklahoma, they're a part of a different government.
Yeah.
The Mexicans, they're a part of a different government.
Right.
Okay. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, those two positions, representatives in Congress, number 3, the executive and judicial officers of a state, 4 and 5, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such states, being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged, except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in a proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such states. So that when they're talking about the right to vote, whether it's the president, the vice president, Congress, the executive, or judicial officers, they're saying the only people that can be denied the right to vote as a citizen of the United States is going to be those that participated in a rebellion. We just read the rebellion document. So if your ass was in the Civil Rebellion, you can't vote. Or another crime, or if you get convicted of another crime, you can't vote. He's talking to the Europeans, right? We're fresh off that civil rebellion. Everybody else their vote will be counted, and then they're going to round that whole number up of male citizens. Now the key is male citizens. All right. So you can see where they excluded the female. So the 14th Amendment did not give female Europeans the right to vote or any female citizen the right to vote. It gave males over the age of 21. And as long as your ass wasn't a part of any kind of rebellion or committed a crime, you could vote. We all good on that?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Anybody want to do section 3 or it's up to y'all. I'll keep going. It don't matter.
Yeah, you good.
Section 3, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or militarily, under the United States or under any state who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States. So you can't be senator or representative in Congress if you've previously taken an oath as a member of Congress.
Oh, okay.
You can't double dip. If you
Right.
serve, yeah, you can't come back and serve again. Where we at? Okay. Or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States. Okay. So even at the state level, if you're in the state legislature or an executive or judicial officer of any state, you also can't do-wop or double dip. Shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Let me stop right there. Can you highlight that, please, Chief Nico? This is part of the reason why they don't want to do an investigation on January 6, 2021, because everybody who was involved in that shit can't hold public office.
Right. Can't hold public office.
Look
What
at it.
about being a citizen?
Look at it. Shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. You can't be a public servant.
Yep.
Right.
They don't want to unmask who was in that.
Exactly.
They don't want to unmask it.
But this goes back to the point of Chief Alligator speaking on how we don't work these documents.
Right.
Because if we all knew this already,
Exactly.
you can't pull that. You can't pull that on us. But they know. They don't know. They don't know what's in our Constitution.
Right. And so this is why I always say there is no law. Now it's going to make sense to you, because once you've read it and you understand it, you know, it looks like the person who's conscious is out to lunch. But actually, it just shows how sick we are as a group of people, because we're not reading. We don't know the operating procedure. You see what I'm saying? So people will look at me like, this nigga crazy. And I'm looking at them like, y'all niggas crazy.
Right.
Because it's telling you right here, yeah, you try to breach the government, you can't be a public servent, which makes sense. That's like natural law. Like you can't try to stop me and then
It's like finding a spy before they act on what they need to.
Say that again, Chief Akebulan.
I said that's kind of like finding a spy before they act on what they need to. Because hold on. Oh snap, my bad. But if somebody's already acted against the government and then they want to position of power, it kind of shows you like they know what to do if they need to take over or something like that.
Got you. And then the next sentence says, but Congress may by a vote of 2/3 of each house remove such disability. So Congress, who makes the law, they can protect those people who insurrected on January 6th, 2020.
Just what they're doing.
Right. Are they protecting them? Because they're not even really doing an investigation
at all.
Like,
they don't want to address it.
Right.
It's just too much to unravel.
Correct.
Yeah.
Too much.
Correct.
Wow.
We can see here how you're being governed. You're following leaders that are corrupt. Because the whole thing should have stopped. January 6th, the whole thing should have stopped, and those people should be stepping down from office.
Right.
Because clearly it was an inside job. How did those people know what corridors to go down, what rooms to look in? How did they know where Nancy Pelosi's office was? Come on, you know, clearly they had to be intel of telling them where to go once they breached.
Correct.
But we don't even have to go that far because we're not dumb. Here we go, section 4. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for service in suppressing insurrection or rebellion shall not be questioned.
Hmm.
So they're basically telling you, if you're a citizen of the United States and we tell you that we got to spend $1 trillion to find out who did an insurrection or a rebellion, you don't even question how much the debt is, just pay it.
Correct.
Mhm.
Crazy. Shall
Wow.
not be questioned.
Yeah, everything will just go up. Doesn't matter.
Look, we gotta raise this debt ceiling another 4 trillion.
Right. It don't matter. Bread $10 now. Pay it.
Right.
But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States. So it's telling you here, there was an insurrection on January 6, 2021. So in that case, the United States or any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred. So they're already telling you, they don't even want to do an investigation when the citizens are going to have to pay for it. They don't even want to do that.
Mm.
Okay.
Let's see. Or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave, but all such debts, obligation, and claims shall be held illegal and void. Let me back up and do that again. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of an insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave, but all such debts, obligation, and claims shall be held illegal and void. So it will pay the debts for insurrection or rebellion. It won't pay the debts for any emancipation of any slave.
Mhm. So it won't pay the debt for anybody who was aiding the rebellion or for the loss of any labor, which would be the slave.
Right.
Loss of any labor.
Not covering it.
Yeah, we're not, yeah. You try to pull that, no, that's illegal. We void it.
All right. They're looking at you like a coward.
But who's the slave based on where we are in their history now? The only person that would be a slave is the person that's in prison.
And then at this right.
Oh,
Right.
right.
Y'all
Yeah.
with me?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, they just
Right.
changed it. This is the 14th. So the 13th
Mhm.
saying you can only be a slave if we incarcerate you.
Right.
Mhm.
So interesting. What's y'all take on that?
Like I said, interesting. Just working the documents, you start to see the gang kind of fall apart, but you kind of understand why it's so critical and why it actually works. But no, we breaking this game down.
I'm trying to kind of understand this section 4 a little more as well. Is it in contradiction of the 13th kind of?
That's incurred for payment of pension.
I don't believe it is. It just sounded like they're making sure that they're separating what they will and won't
Okay.
pay as
Oh.
far as any debts.
Okay. Highlight from the validity all the way to question, that first sentence.
You say the validity. Way to question. Okay, question.
Right there. So any debt incurred for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion shall not be questioned.
Mhm.
So whatever the balance is that you show me, Congress is saying it can't be questioned.
Okay.
We gonna pay.
You can tell me it's 1 million that we owe, that they owe. They're not going to question whether it's 1 million or not. Now look at the second half of this.
Mhm.
But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion. So you could tell us we owe you whatever, but if it was an insurrection or a rebellion, we ain't giving you shit.
Okay. Got it.
We'll
Okay.
pay, we'll pay those that was helping stop the rebellion, insurrection, You know, we ain't gonna question the validity of that. But
Okay.
if you was aiding the insurrection or rebellion, nah, y'all ain't getting nothing. You gonna look at that as legal and void. That's how.
Mhm.
So it shows
That
the
makes
power of
sense.
Congress. And so for Congress not to even have a hearing on this, clearly there's a lot of people that's gonna have to step down if they
Correct.
were to start doing an investigation on how many people were actually involved on January 6th.
Mhm.
And so you see the House Negroes that they put on TV, they're already talking about, oh, there's not going to be anything about that.
And it's not.
But Biden just said this week, because this was the year anniversary since he got sworn in. I don't know if y'all know this or not. Biden just said this week he's going to put more money into policing than Trump did. So Mr. 1994 crime bill is exactly who he was 30 years ago.
Then.
He's telling you, I'm going to make it worse than what Trump had going on. Now we're going to use, oh, crime is escalating. Crime is escalating. So now they're going to double down and get back to business as usual and lock up who?
Same old same.
Yep.
Mhm.
Us.
Pay attention.
Unprotected.
America. Yep.
Y'all want to go to the next section?
Yeah, I'll pick up here.
Okay.
Section 5, the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article, changed by Section 1 of the 26th Amendment. So basically, just like the last amendment, is saying that Congress has the power to enforce pretty much this amendment. That's what I'm getting from that one.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we got the 15th and then we'll be done. We just want to try to get all three of these amendments out the way on this bill.
Back up a little bit, get to 15.
Now, in the 14th Amendment, did any of y'all see anything specifically to us?
No.
So we've read the 13th and the 14th.
They don't even say American.
Or
They just say
Indian.
persons.
Correct. They all
Persons.
From
make-
legal talk.
Correct. I'll get this thing up here.
We've been hoodwinked, y'all. Bamboozled.
Big time. And it's really, well, can't say it's due to us, our lack of reading, because during these times, you know, our people, the Americans, they weren't getting these hands on these documents. So this was a game just being played on them. Now that we're here, you know, we can hold this government accountable per its constitution, but we don't.
This is the foundation.
Gotta work it. Right. Gotta work it.
Chief Black Hole, this is the foundation. It's like, okay, we can't beat these folks, but shit, our lineage, you know, they gonna fuck them over with this one. Because we're gonna make sure we don't teach them, like Chief Quietwater stated, we're gonna make sure they don't teach this discipline in their school. So we'll make sure that we'll pump them with everything to keep them in la la land. But as far as what we doing right now, we cool. Just give us 100 years. And that's where this other stuff come from. But Amendment 15 passed by Congress February 26, 1869, ratified February 3rd, 1870. Section 1, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or bribed by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So again, that term again, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or bribed by the United States or by any state on the account of the race, color, or previous conditions of servitude. So again, prior to that, we hadn't seen anything regarding race or color.
Right.
Last two amendments. So they're just, again, adding more reclassifications within their document to continue to be able to pretty much bring anybody up under who they want to underneath their constitution.
Wait a
But
minute.
again,
Wait a minute.
go ahead.
Before you can vote, you got to do what, y'all?
Be a citizen.
Right. So now you understand why the peasants in the South would not allow us to go to courthouses, and they had to count how many marbles was in a jar and all kind of, this is where your Jim Crow laws come from. They had all kind of dumbass tests because they did not want you to be a citizen of their we the people government.
Correct.
You didn't get the right to vote till 1965. This amendment, it only applies if you could squeeze your ass down there and get registered to vote. They weren't going to let you do that, which means you were not a citizen. Follow me. If you were not a citizen, that's how they could kill you, and there would be no court case during the Jim Crow era. Why? You're not a citizen of their government, so you can't have a court case.
You're not accounted for. Mm-hmm.
They don't have any documents saying who you are. You can't go to their hospital, which is why our grandparents couldn't go to hospitals to give birth. Yeah, they didn't have no record of you. Only thing they would account for you was the census. They would count your head in the census record just to know how many bodies was in that area in case you rebel based on the militia district they got underneath you to go ahead and clean up house. I ain't want to stop you, Bill. I just want to throw that in. You can't vote unless you registered to.
Correct. Correct. But again, based off of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, I guess this poses our last question of pretty much who does the 13th through 15th Amendment actually apply to? As he just stated, we weren't citizens, we couldn't even vote. So who were these last three amendments that we just ran over? Who were they actually?
The citizens.
Citizens of the United States.
Mhm.
Which again is pretty much who? Any person?
Anybody naturalized or born here.
Mhm. Correct.
I'm
So again, nothing specific to us, yet our people want
about
to
to whack this nigga,
catch
bro.
ourselves for these amendments.
It's kind of like an obedience clause.
Expound on it.
Wait, you said what?
What do you mean by that?
Oh, that they said like how people there were supposedly slaves. They were basically telling you like, if you do something wrong, this is how we're gonna handle it.
Okay.
Like instead of saying we're gonna put you into slavery or make you an indentured servant, they just put it in like what's that, legal terms to make it sound better. But in reality, I feel like they're the same thing.
Gotcha.
So why do we go into the world of make-believe? Why do our scholars tell us that these amendments apply specifically to us, but when you read them for yourselves, you find out otherwise? So why do we superimpose a reality that does not exist in writing? Why do we do that as a group of people?
The lack of knowledge, the lack of us understanding, because we have never read these documents. And even when they're taught in school, of course, they're not broken down
Right.
like we are able to break them down. And it's really not even breaking it down. It's actually just, it's because of the prior knowledge that we have up until this point that we understand it better. So you really ain't got to even break it down, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and back to Chief Alligator question about our scholars that have this information. I think they're afraid of the actual truth, because if they can read it like we read it, they would start to connect some dots in a scholarly mind, saying, "Hold on, I don't think these amendments are for my people." But just being in that traditional way of teaching and knowing what the curriculum says and what's coming down the pipeline. I don't know if these teachers are afraid to expand, the horizon when it comes to teaching, and they just kind of keep it narrow. But that's a great question, because how can you be a scholar, read this document for yourself, and then still go back into the schools and act like everything's normal, guys? 13th, 14th Amendment, they added us in, like, so a great question.
No, I would agree though. I would agree. I think a lot of them, like we've been stating in the last videos, are just the enemy, point blank. I believe they know, or if they don't know, they know to a certain extent, but they need to keep the narrative going to fill their
Somebody knows something.
fill their pockets with this this fiat. So in a way, they're even more brainwashed into this make-believe government, because they think that's actually real money. So
Right.
they'll do anything to be a step above the bottom of the barrel.
Mm,
Yeah, I'll take my scrap off of this.
Right.
I'll crumb off the bread as long as, I'm above somebody, even if it's my own people.
right.
So I think that's how a lot of them work, especially,
Idols.
yeah, especially we know the Congressional Black Caucus. So you on mute there, Chief Alligator.
No, I was gonna ask y'all, so why do y'all do this? If it's fear that Chief Blackco said, and then Chief Quietwater said, it really doesn't even have to be broke down. Why, everybody on this channel, why are you willing to stand up and tell the truth based on reading these documents? What drives you to stand and tell the truth when your scholars won't, your religious leaders won't, your political leaders won't? Why are y'all?
Right. Well, there's no honor amongst thieves. So with that being said, I don't know how long they thought they were gonna run game and burn all the boats so they can run away from history. But yeah, nah. Going forward means going forward. We can't move forward because we don't know who the American is. We don't know the story. So we're stagnant big time. We're debating false information. And this information helps us move forward. Now, okay, hold on. We're the Americans. I'm not from
Right.
Africa. Shit. So wait, the Native Americans all didn't die? Now you start to move forward. This is a process of moving forward. Whoever get a chance to actually see this channel,
Right.
you have to rethink some things. You have to be like, So it's just a process of moving forward for me, helping that next generation, and then eventually, get to a point to where there are no more lies. Everybody's back to how it's supposed to be. But that's the long run for what we're doing right now.
I agree with that as well. I feel that it breaks a cycle. The information breaks a cycle, so that now that I am more educated and my eyes are more open to the information, I wasn't that far in a sunken place, but this just opens up so much. And now I'm able to pass the information on to people in my circle that I can share the information with, more importantly, my kids, so that they can teach their kids. So we're not going by the narrative of what we're taught in school. They can now teach their kids, and then it just moves from that point with my branch of my family tree.
Chief Akebulan? Is he still there?
Can y'all repeat the question?
What makes you want to stand up and tell the truth and not be afraid like all of our so-called religious leaders, political leaders, and scholars? Why?
Wait, you said what makes me want to?
Yeah, what makes you want to participate on this channel and just tell the truth?
Oh, because I just don't like how people lie about like history. I think that's crazy. I personally just feel like if everybody knew what was going on, life would be a lot more, it will make a lot more sense.
Okay.
Like as far as school, as far as the true Americans actually knowing where they came from, all of it. I just feel like if you know your history, it's a lot more that you will achieve for. Like even with like the people the Europeans, they feel this pride because they know this history is not real history, but they know a story that they believe in. And we feel like we came from nothing, so we don't really try to achieve nothing. That's how I feel.
Chief,
Great point there, Chief. I'm gonna piggyback off of that. Just like he stated, just understanding, being that we're of this land. So that hits a little different than, saying, oh, you from Africa, something like that. And now you don't really care what happens on this land. But when you finally understand that you come from this land, you have blood, great-grandmothers, great-great-grandmothers, great-great-grandfathers on this land, it hit a little different. It gives you that sense of pride. So I think that's where it came from me, and finally being able to, celebrate that. Like I think we was talking, Chief Alligator, U.S. citizens, they may claim to be U.S. citizens, but what flags are they waving?
Right. What
And
you
they
repping?
have Puerto Rican flags, these different flags. So yeah, they're a US citizen, but they're still in alignment with their ancestry. They're still honoring their ancestors. So I guess that brings the question, why don't we do that? Why are we so afraid to call ourselves American?
We like to debate and play. We like to play around. We'll sit on the internet all day and play around like we give a fuck.
Mhm.
And just to be engaged with the community and look like a cool guy, look like a smart person, but we ain't really doing the work yet. Cause like you said, where your flag at? What you repping? You know, all these acronyms in your bio.
Right.
Facts, all these reclassifications in your bio. It's like
Right.
what Kendrick say? What Kendrick say? Where your grandma stay?
Where your girls? Right.
Here's
That's
the
true.
downside of what all of y'all have done on this channel. Nobody remembers the coward. Nobody remembers the coward in society. You're only remembered in history and time immemorial when you stand up for something.
Right.
And so by default, whether all of y'all know this on this channel or not, we've left a digital footprint of the truth. And so we are building a legacy while we're living, so that, you know, hopefully we all live a long life. But whenever we transition out of here, that's a different being when you're living to leave a legacy. That's a different way of operating. Most people are afraid to say COVID and all these different words. Nobody remembers the coward. I'll just share that with everybody on this channel. None of us are cowards because we're standing up and we're leaving a digital imprint for the world. And we welcome anybody who has any pushback against the way we're dissecting these documents. The comments show. When you present proof of claim, there's no argument. You can only argue when there's no evidence. We're giving you evidence every video. So that's why our comment sections are very silent every week on every video we drop. So I'm proud to be a part of this group with y'all, and this will be a part of all of our legacies. Once we leave planet Earth and go into the celestial stage, we will be remembered for what we're doing.
Yep.
Let your nuts hang, in other words. Let me go on and say that. You only live once, let them hang.
Right.
What you scared of?
No, for real.
Shit.
And Breonna Taylor family, you owe us one.
Mm.
Yeah, you owe us one. You got the Baggington because of us.
Correct.
If it wasn't for the people, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
All right.
We still alive or we off?
I'm about to sign off.
Okay.